Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro friends. Today we're going to talk about something that may be a wee bit uncomfortable. And I'm not going to apologize for having an uncomfortable conversation with you. That's what the Daily Coffee Pro is for. That's what Map It Forward is about. It's about talking about a lot of the shit that we don't necessarily talk about in our industry, but need to be spoken about. We're going to talk about taking things that are not yours from the workplace that you work in. If you've worked in the coffee industry, I know you know what I'm talking about. Either you have taken something yourself or you've been the witness of somebody who has taken shit. Now, I guess it depends on how you look at this. All right, so to make things obvious, what I'm talking about is stealing. I'm learning that nuanced communication isn't necessarily a great tool that most people use these days. So I realize I have to be very obvious in some of the things that I'm saying. What I'm talking about is stealing. And so what I want to point out is that stealing has a spectrum. Okay, so let's say you comp a coffee for somebody. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, comping a coffee means giving someone a coffee for free. If you have permission to do that, that's not stealing. If you don't have permission to do that, or you haven't been given free rein to do that, well, technically it's stealing. But that's on the very low end of the scale, right? That becomes something a little more serious when you're giving away lots of coffees for free. Okay? Then it starts to become a thing of, well, hold on, how serious is this? This is properly stealing now, unless, again, you have permission to do it. But on the other end of the spectrum is people who steal money. That's, I think, about the most severe of all of it. But also is this idea of people who steal equipment and expensive tools. People who fake that equipment is dodgy. And so what they do is they'll just take it. They'll justify it to themselves that, hey, okay, these scales don't really work anymore, so I'm just going to take them, when they know that it's just that the battery needs to be changed or something like that. So listen, we all know what's wrong, okay? Taking shit that's not yours is wrong. But when you take shit from somewhere that's not yours, there's another part of that whole equation. Okay, so if you take something that's not yours from the workplace that's responsible for making money to pay your wages, the very obvious consequence of that is that the business isn't going to survive long term because money's leaking out of the business. The reason I want to talk about this is because I heard a couple of baristas say recently, through this trying to one-up each other on who had taken more shit from their respective workplaces. One was talking about the fact that his boss had bought him a pair of scales. I don't know why we call them a pair of scales because they're electronic, but his boss had bought him scales that his boss didn't know that he paid for. And another person was boasting about the fact that the drinks for the party that they recently had at their house was all courtesy of that person's boss. And they were really boasting about the fact that they had taken stuff from people. It's difficult given that this practice is so ingrained in the culture of the hospitality industry. It happens everywhere. It absolutely happens everywhere. I was fortunate enough that before I came into the coffee industry, I witnessed something that was very unfortunate with our family business over the span of 15 years. We had an employee that was so beloved to our family that we couldn't even believe it when we found out that for 15 years he had been stealing from us cash, little bits every night. He worked the night shift at our petrol station, gas station, and that eventuated to, over the span of the time he had been doing it, it turned out to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we had no recourse. And having seen the effects of that happening to my family made me hypersensitive of taking anything from anyone else's business that wasn't mine. But I definitely witnessed other people do shady shit in the places that I was working in. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that I never gave away coffees to my friends for free. It doesn't mean that I didn't comp a meal here or there. Absolutely. Okay, that happened. The one meal that I did comp, I'm going to cop to this because I just feel so shit about trying to make out like I'm some person who did some bad shit. I ended up going back and paying for it anyway. It's just not in me. I have this weird connection with balance. I feel if you take from someone something that's not yours, that shit is going to come back to you at a magnitude that is just not worth it. But I definitely did give free coffees away, probably more than I should have. And that was, that was my role, and I expected that will come back onto me. But I definitely witnessed people do shit that I was very uncomfortable with. I watched people take things from storage rooms. I watched people take bags of coffee. I watched people definitely continuously comp meals for many, many people because they knew that this customer was going to do them a favor. I saw that stuff and was really uncomfortable with it. And so if you're somebody who witnesses this stuff and you don't know what to do about it, what I'm going to say to you is confront the person. Definitely the worst thing that can happen is if you see someone taking cash, don't confront the person. Tell your boss. If you're uncomfortable being that's a crime. You do not want to be working with this person. If they can steal money, you don't know what levels they're going to go to. More importantly, if they're stealing money, you want to make sure that that person's okay, and they're not stealing money because of a variety of other things that could be going on in their life, and you're not equipped to do anything about that. Just tell your boss. Let your boss know that this is going on, and you don't necessarily want to be named as the person who dobbed on them, or whatever the word is that we use these days for that, told on them. But if you see a coworker that is taking a bag of coffee home and they're not paying for it, instead of necessarily going and talking to your boss about it, if you feel uncomfortable doing that, just maybe say something to them. Say something to a coworker, because typically what will happen if a coworker sees that you've seen them do something that they shouldn't be doing, they will try and drag you in on the act. They will try and make it so that they have a co-conspirator. Oh, do you want a bag of coffee to take home? Saying then, no, that's okay. If I need coffee, I'll buy it. Letting them know that they are doing something that they shouldn't be doing is usually enough to help them check their conscience. And that's a very great, that's always worked for me. I remember seeing a friend take a whole box, well, not a friend, a colleague, take a whole box of drinks home, put it in his car. And I'm like, what are you doing? Did you buy that? Like, can we get drinks from work at the same wholesale price that work gets them? And he said, no, like, you just take it. Just take whatever you want. There's a whole massive room full of drinks. Just take whatever you want. I'm like, bro, you can't do that. You just simply can't do that. That's stealing. And he felt really bad. And he should feel really bad. I don't know how long he'd been fucking doing it, but I tell you, it wasn't the first time he'd done it. The reason I want to say this is because I'm a business owner now, and I work really hard for all the money that we make, all of it gets spent on bills. Like, money comes into my business and is out the same day. If somebody is stealing from my business, it's like trying to catch water with your hands. Like, there's no chance that you're ever going to get ahead. And if you're a business owner, what I want to encourage is that you create an environment that makes the need to behave like this, well, not necessarily the need, but the desire to want to behave this way for your employees, to be second guessed. I never saw stealing happen in environments where employees felt like they were a tribe. I never saw it happen in environments where employees were excited about the success of the business. I never saw it happen in environments where the team felt like they wanted to be a part of something great. Essentially what I'm saying, if you have a great culture, if you cultivate a sense of belonging for your staff, they're not going to want to steal from you. They will take ownership of the place that they're working and feel that they have a vested interest in the success of the place that they're working, and so they won't want to be a part of the demise. So invest in your employees, cultivate a culture that nurtures a sense of belonging and a sense of pride, and you're going to be less likely to experience your staff stealing from you. If you are someone that's stealing from your employer, I want to invite you to stop. I want to invite you to ask yourself why you find it necessary to take things that aren't yours, and step into a space of, if you need help, ask for help. Find a way to ask somebody for help on how to shift things in your life so that you don't have to steal. And if you can't find a reason not to steal, perhaps think about going and finding somewhere that you can work, that you will feel that you belong. Find your people so that you have less of a desire to want to take something that isn't yours. On that note, peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day. Conspire to each other's success.